I'll get right to some questions. So I'm going to motor through it pretty quickly. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about BigCommerce because I think it creates some context for how we think about partnerships. And then I'll get a little bit into at the end about to follow up on what Jan said and verify what he said about how we think about those partnerships. And actually, Jan, there's a really easy way to do that. You just pay me, and then you can go right to the top. We don't have to worry about the process. So a little bit about BigCommerce. It's a busy chart. Let me focus in on a couple of things that make us different. A couple things that you'll notice in here about us. 78% gross margin, going on a $100 million business. 75% of our revenue comes from our core SaaS business. So we're not a payment company, we're not a merchant credit company, we're not a shipping company. We build those through partnerships. So we have an open partnership platform, and it's really important to us that those partner solutions that we provide there are many of them, and that they're the best-in-class solutions that we can offer. So our revenue structure is a little bit different than what you might find from some other large e-commerce platform companies. Also want to point out, because some have asked me, $204 million raised. We just announced last week, $64 million raised from Goldman Sachs. That's intended to be our last round of funding as a privately held company. And so we're pretty excited about that. The other thing I want to point out here is that to define what we do, this is a bit of a mouthful, but I'm going to get more into this later. We are a SaaS-based e-commerce platform, as well as a multi-channel selling and fulfillment platform. And I'll get into what that means in just a minute. Our focus is both on the small business and the mid-market. And there was a debate earlier in one of the lunch roundtables people were having, can you focus on small business and mid-market at the same time? We believe that you can. Primarily because our focus on the small business side is around what we call aspirational sellers. We're interested in small businesses that actually want to grow their business. And so as evidence of that, there are other publicly traded e-commerce solution providers that are out there, e-commerce platforms, and so I'm able to give you some comparison. Our average customer across our entire platform will sell about $100,000 a year. That's on average. We have some that go up to 50 million or even higher than that, and we have some obviously that are zero. Shopify, as an example, is a little bit different in that their average is about $44,000 a year. So our focus is just different in that way, in that it's not that we don't want small business customers, we do, but we're really interested in helping them be successful and those that are really intentional about building an online business. So this is a little bit about our journey, not unlike all of your companies, or maybe if you founded a company. Our company was founded by Eddie and Mitch, as we know them, in Sydney, Australia, about 9 years ago. The company has since moved to Austin, Texas, as our headquarters. We also have an office down here at 3rd and Market. That's our San Francisco office, primarily developers. Started out with our Series A funding in 2011. We moved into the mid-market and omni-channel. So when I say mid-market, we restructured our product set, our pricing, and our sales organization to focus on merchants that sell between $1 million and $50 million a year. New CEO, Brent Belm, joined us. He was the COO of HomeAway. Prior to that, he ran PayPal Europe. So he brought a completely different perspective for our company. And then today, we view ourselves as the SaaS-based enterprise or mid-market leader. Obviously, there are other premise-based e-commerce solutions like Magento and Demandware and Hybris above us in terms of that stack, but they're not necessarily SaaS in the mid-market like we are. So just last slide about the company. This is a little bit about our customer evolution. As I mentioned before, on the small business side, we're looking for small businesses that are intentional to grow. You might recognize that. That's Jenny's Ice Cream. Jenny started out selling inside of a market in Ohio and has since grown a multi-million-dollar business selling and shipping ice cream around the world. She's one of our customers. We're also attracting first-time enterprise merchants that are selling online for the first time. If you are familiar with Gibson Guitar, for example, they've had a website, of course, forever, but then you had to go into a retail business to buy a Gibson guitar. They finally decided that they wanted to sell their guitars online, and so they're a user of the BigCommerce services. Ben & Jerry's, of course, being another one, as well as enterprise businesses that are building on the SaaS platform. So these are pretty large brand names. I don't mean to say that Procter & Gamble has all of their e-commerce on BigCommerce, but you can imagine Procter & Gamble has literally dozens, if not hundreds, of sub-product categories, and they do want to sell those products online. And so Procter & Gamble as a company comes to us, and we may have 20 or 30 online stores from Procter & Gamble for each one of these different product sets. And then lastly, down at the bottom, when I said earlier that we're a multi-channel selling and fulfillment platform, we have a really strong and distinct interest in helping our customers sell more. And what we mean by that is we allow our merchants to import or export their product catalog into these marketplaces, social or POS, in the case of Square, for example. We allow them to import or export their product catalog, and then they can synchronize their inventory and their order status. And so we have customers today that actually, in some cases, have never launched their own online store. What their main interest is BigCommerce is a place to store that product catalog and to synchronize that sales information and the order status across Facebook, Google Shopping, or Amazon and eBay, for example. And we love them too. So we're very open to that, and we built the structure for them to be able to do that. So I want to get into driving value through new partnerships. How do we think about it? And really in two questions. One is, how do I partner with other SaaS companies to grow my business? And then second, how do I establish a partnership with BigCommerce? Other than what Jan already told you about how it works. We'll see if it matches, because I can't change the slides that quickly. First thing I want to mention about this slide is, and I think this is pretty important for you to think about for your business, everybody on my team is aligned around these three things. And so what's a little bit different about this at BigCommerce is in the business development and the partner management team is everybody on our team is compensated in the form of commission, meaning that 65 to 75% of their total OTE, their total pay, is variable. And it's based upon three things. One is, how many new merchants did we drive into our business through our partnerships? How much revenue did we generate from the revenue share from those partnerships? And the product solutions that we deliver to our customers. And so our team is aligned around that. And so if you think about us in terms of the title that we gave ourselves, business development, partner management, whatever that might be, the fact of the matter is we're product people. Our core job is to identify and to partner with companies that bring product solutions into our platform for our merchants to use and be successful. That means that our group works very, very closely with our chief product officer, our chief technology officer, and we're always looking for what are those solutions that we as a company don't want to solve at a native platform level, and we're looking to do it through partners. And so we do a lot of that. So why partner with us? Create a market-leading product solution and share revenue and customer growth. So partnering with large companies can obviously be intimidating. So I just want to talk a little bit about this. This is more comes from my personal experience. This is not necessarily a list of rules that you have to follow, but just things for you to think about. You know, these are pretty obvious. Communicate the value to them. Revenue growth will always be available. I want to focus on number 3. Don't expect that they're going to spend a lot of money just because they're worth $1 billion. What's important to know about this is when you're partnering with really large companies in the partner ecosystem for e-commerce, for example, or SaaS-based companies, is that part of the reason why they're such a big company is because they are really good at understanding the return on their investments. And so even when they partner with companies like BigCommerce, they're going to say to us, we demand these performance criteria. And so if we're going to have a partnership together, we're going to put pretty tight performance criteria on it, and we're going to set short timelines. So the partnership agreement may be 3 years, but every 6 months we check in on what those KPIs are, and we check to make sure that we're both being successful and that we're both getting the return on the investment through that partnership that we were looking for. And if we're not, then we have a different discussion, which is, should we restructure the partnership or should we even be in a partnership at all? And so most important that I put down here in the bottom is just be patient. These things take time. They're not necessarily going to operate on your time schedule. They have a lot of things going on, and sometimes they don't always move as quickly as you might be able to move. So you just need to be patient and let it work through the system, but you'll be able to tell early on whether or not this is going to turn into a partnership with them. So for us at BigCommerce, we're always adding strategic partners. This is just sort of the way that we think about it. The partner managers that work in my group are all structured around what we call portfolios of management. And so we did this a couple of different ways over the last couple of years. One thought that we had a couple of years ago is, well, let's divide up all the payment companies and let everybody have one or two. And then we decided that wasn't a very good idea because the partner managers themselves couldn't really think about it in terms of the product that we were delivering to the customers. So we lined it up this way. There are over 500 partners in our technology partner system. And to be clear, and I think Jan mentioned this, they're not all the same. In our world, we have strategic, elite, premier, and then there are technology partners. And so how do you become a strategic or an elite partner? That happens, generally speaking, in one of three ways, and it goes back to the slide that I had before. Either you are a very strategic product solution that I need to deliver to my merchants, or you're generating a lot of revenue for us as a company through that partnership relationship, or you're bringing a lot of customers into the top of funnel through our partnership relationship. And so when I mention it like that, these are all bilateral partnership arrangements. We're doing the same thing for each other. So you have the same thing that you need, that I need: customers, revenue, and a good product solution. So this is how we structure it. You can see that we're a little bit overweighted in some of these areas. And I want to go back, because I made a note earlier when Alex, you were talking from Venn, he was talking about it, and he said one of his tenets that he had up there was act bigger than you are. I remembered that and I wrote it down. And the reason why I want to mention that is because going back in the history of BigCommerce, when the company was first founded, Eddie and Mitch had what I call business inferiority complex. And basically what that means is that they wanted to partner with anybody and everybody because they felt like that was the way to success. What they weren't doing is doing what Alex suggested, which is act bigger than you are. And so I think that's a really important message, and I don't mean to be saying that you're not humble. It means that you're really going to that partner and you're expressing what the possibilities are of that relationship, and you're putting out there that they are the most important thing to you, and you're going to make that important to them, and you're really just asking the same in return. So I think it's a pretty important piece of advice. Don't be shy about how you think the partnership structure should be. And one thing I would finish with about that is, it's not about the number of partnerships that you have, it's how strategic they are and how deeply you're focused on them and how much time you spend getting them to success. So don't have business inferiority complex, don't just go get a whole bunch of them. I want to point out that over here where it says payments, with 64 payment providers, that's only gotten bigger in the last couple of years through all the digital wallet providers, Apple, Chase, Visa Checkout, MasterPass, that sort of thing. But when I joined the company 4.5 years ago, we had 78 payment integrations that it had been built by the company. And when you think about that, A, that's way too many, and B, that costs a lot of money because an engineer had to spend probably 2 months building that integration, and that costs real money. And so we went through that list and we found we had payment partners that had like $10 in GMV for the month. And we weren't really focusing our effort on the partners that needed that attention in order to consolidate that marketing focus. And so we actually took the number down from about 78 to about 40. And the reason it was even 40 was because we're in 120 countries, and sometimes we need specific payment partners by country. It's gotten up a little bit higher because of these digital wallets. But that's what happens early on when you just partner with everybody, and then you just completely dilute all the value and the benefit that the partner gets from your relationship and that your merchants are going to get, because then they're a little bit confused. Who are you really recommending and what's important to you? So how do I partner with BigCommerce? Obviously, develop a relationship with customers or other partners. Jeff Perlman, I don't know if he's here today. Jeff's in the back. One SaaS, he's a partner of ours. We were talking about this earlier, and we were laughing about all the emails that I get, and I think, Jan, you guessed it correctly. I get dozens of emails a week, and they say something like this. And by the way, it's a dead giveaway when the email says kevin.mckeand@bigcommerce.com. Kevin at BigCommerce.com, Kay McKeand at BigCommerce.com. They're just guessing at this point. And basically what they're telling me is that they're going to be the most important partner I've ever had because I'm going to actually take my 60,000 merchants and recommend their solution. And that's essentially what it says. And that one gets deleted pretty quickly. And so that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to build a relationship either with my customers, because they're your customers too, or find another one of my partners and either you have a relationship with them and they can come as a trusted advisor to me to tell me that I should look at your solution, or find some way to do that in a creative way. The other thing I would mention is that we have a very open partner ecosystem. You can go to our technology app marketplace, you can go to our partner portal, and you can see who all of our partners are. Pick one that you know or somebody that you know through LinkedIn and build that relationship and come to me and present that idea to me in that way. Demonstrate an understanding of our business. I know this is a little bit funny and I didn't mean it to be a joke, but sometimes I get emails, actually I get about one a week, from a payment company, and usually by now they're ISOs or resellers of payment companies, and they tell me that they want to be my exclusive payment provider on a global basis, and they want to be the payment solution that's the only one recommended inside my control panel. And that demonstrates to me a real lack of understanding of my business. You have to understand, I'm 9 years old, you can go in, the business is 9 years old, you can go into the control panel and see for yourself who my key partners are. Don't come to me with that kind of request. Come to me with something a little bit different. Hey, I'm a payment provider. I'd really like to understand how to be a partner of yours. My friend Tina recommended, or maybe she recommended that I come talk to you, that sort of thing. That's really what I'm looking for. And then that goes along with how do you fit into the ecosystem objectives. I think Jan hit on this a little bit earlier. If you do your research and you look into the technology marketplace of BigCommerce, you'll pretty easily come to an understanding of what I'm missing. You know that, for example, I'm missing B2B right now, so I need some solutions that help me to get merchants in that space, but I don't really need another payment provider. I don't need another shipping solution, things like that. So just do your research, understand what that situation is, and when you come talk to me, you'll be better informed. How will you contribute to our revenue and our growth? I think multiple people have mentioned this today. These are bilateral relationships. This isn't about you and it isn't just about me, but you do also need to explain what's in it for BigCommerce. And then when we start that conversation, then we can start talking about how do we also get something that's of value to you through the merchant base that I have in recommending it. Don't make it hard. I think somebody said earlier the opposite. They said make it easy. Maybe that was you, Alex, but just took the other perspective of it. And then understand the stage of our business and what we might need. So what do I look for? By the way, this list is actually probably no different than what we look for in a spouse, a partner, a business partner, somebody else that we look for. These are the exact same things, and this is what works. So transparency, be ready to share appropriate information to develop a path to success. When I say transparency, I don't mean confidential information. I mean just have an honest conversation about where you're going as a business and get their perspective too, is where you think they're going. Humility, it's not about you, it's about these two businesses working together to build success and create shareholder value. That's what it should be about. Honesty, if there's something we should talk about, then we need to have that direct conversation. Communication, regular one-on-ones and an executive alignment. What I mean by that is that you all have the same situation that I do. We have the CEO, my boss, me, and then there are employees that work for me. Everybody in that stack has somebody in one of our strategic partnerships or elite partnerships that they're connected to. And so Gabriella and I are connected, for example. Her boss is connected to my boss. Your CFO has spoken to our CEO. There's executive alignment, and there are various conversations that are going on at those levels, just as check-in, to make sure everybody's saying the same thing, to make sure that everybody's on the same track, and to also unblock anything that might be going on that might be keeping Gabriella and I, for example, from advancing part of the partnership. We'll line those executives up, we'll give them the talking points, and they'll have that conversation, reach an agreement, and then her and I can get on with what we need to do. Integrity, that's a pretty obvious one. Trust is particularly critical in times of stress. These partnerships can sometimes get tense. KPIs and ROI isn't being met. You're not getting what you want out of it. It can be pretty stressful, but it's key to keep your cool and to remember that this person on the other end is really just trying to do the best that they can. And it's important that you have a good relationship with them that you can maintain in those times of stress. And then a commitment. We just need time to make this successful. This isn't going to happen in a month or 6 or maybe even a year. It might take many, many years to make this partnership successful, but we have to keep working at it. We have to keep having goals. We have to keep checking in to make sure we're doing the things that we need to do to make it successful. And then lastly, it's really all about this. It's really about the people. It's about Gabriella at Square. It's about Jem at Amazon, or Simon at Google, or Brett at eBay, and Mike at PayPal. These are people that I talk to, and I have what I think a good relationship with them, and we like to talk to each other. We have personal conversations sometimes about what's going on in life, but that's part of it. It isn't all business, because if we don't have that personal relationship to a certain extent, then we can't have those really candid, transparent, honest conversations. So I think that's a big part of it. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Did I send you an email that I wanted to be your global payments partner? And did you delete it? Just kidding. Just kidding.
You
Just
did
kidding.
actually. Well, somebody did at WePay one point. But I should, for all transparency purposes, our integration with WePay will be completed at the end of June. So we are officially partners.
So I guess I didn't do that. Thank you. So awesome questions, Kevin.
They're thinking there's alcohol outside.
No. Yes, Jan.
Hi, my name is Dennis. Thank you for the presentation. And so you mentioned Square as one of your partners, and I was just wondering if you view that relationship any differently following their recent acquisition of Weebly, and then if the answer is no, is that because Weebly is more focused on the long tail that you're not?
Well, I can let Gabrielle answer that question too, but I'll give you my perspective. I don't. And, you know, look, all the things that I mentioned up there about the relationship that we have with Square and the relationship that I have with Gabriella, I trust her. I know she's being honest with me. They needed to make a decision given the business circumstances that they have for them. And when they call and tell me that this doesn't change the relationship that we have and how we're going to work together as partners, I believe her.
Cool. Thank you.
Maybe I'll ask you a question on your strategic bets. You already mentioned B2B is one of the bets. What else are you guys looking into right now in terms of tech?
Good question. So what are the things we're looking into? So B2B is one of them. The other big bet that I would say that we're making is goes under various names. Some refer to it as commerce as a service. Some actually have a more gruesome name called headless commerce. If you've ever heard that term, I don't. It's kind of a weird name. But basically what that means is that if you're familiar with commerce as a service or headless commerce, you know, look, the largest, frankly, the largest ecosystem I think in the world even is WordPress. WordPress and the customers that are using WordPress to build blog sites or online sites, they go typically to Woo when they need e-commerce. And that makes good sense because Automatic, which is the .com of WordPress, owns Woo as well. We believe that we can build a solution for customers that use WordPress and want to easily integrate in a more full-service e-commerce solution. We're going to place a big bet on that. Now, this isn't necessarily new for us, but how we're going to do it is new. Today, roughly 40% of BigCommerce's customers subdomain a WordPress site with a BigCommerce store. Now, what does that mean? When you go to Gibson.com, for example, which is Gibson Guitars, you're going to see a WordPress site. At the top of that menu, there's going to be a button that says Store. And when you press that Store button, it's going to take you to a site that's called store.gibson.com. That's actually BigCommerce. And so what happens is the look and the feel is all the same, and it all seems a bit interconnected to you. We have a lot of customers that already do that, but it's painful to do. It's not easy to do, subdomaining and building that site and getting the blog information to move between the two systems easily, to make sure the product catalog moves between the two very easily, to make sure the colors and the logos are correct. We fixed that. So we're in beta right now. We plan to actually launch it to the world in September.
Awesome.
I appreciate all of you coming and staying. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.